Hey, gang, there are so many important issues to discuss in today's political, cultural, and economic climate, and I can't discuss them all here. In fact, YouTube and big tech won't let me talk about it all here. And that's why I have exclusive, uncensored live streams on Monday nights to cover everything. On Monday nights, I share all my thoughts and answer your questions in an in-depth, casual format that prepares you for this upcoming election with the truth. Today, I want to show you a quick clip from a recent stream that I hope will help you think clearly about these important issues, as well as encourage you to join our movement. Join an upcoming exclusive live stream, and I'll answer your questions by clicking the link in the description below and joining our community of courageous patriots building a parallel economy. I look forward to seeing you over there.
Patty Karst wants to know, Dr. Steve, I've been listening to a lot of pundits about the attack on Israel. What do you know to be true? I hear that barbarism was egregious, yet we have those who want to give Hamas a pass. I'm concerned for the next move by this administration in bringing Palestinian refugees.
Yeah. Tucker's talking about that now. You notice the pattern, right? The pattern of let's start a war. And then what's the next thing? Oh, and let's bring in all these refugees here. Again, there's not an appetite for this. The polls, not that that matters, I get it, but there's definitely not an appetite to bring members of a nation that voted in Hamas into the country. There's definitely no appetite there. Only the far left is it. Yeah, look, I mean, yeah, it's tough. Again, it's very similar to the situation we faced in Ukraine. And we took on this channel, we took a very unpopular opinion. Everybody on the right wing, in the right wing media is, oh, yeah, Ukraine, Zelensky. I mean, there are a lot of people were championing, Sean Hannity, Levin, you name it. They were all saying we've got to be 100% behind Zelensky. What Putin did is inexcusable. There's no reason for it. It's just because he's an evil despot, no other. And I said, that's not what's happening. And so how do we know? So when we're trying to figure out truth, we need to know three things. Whatever's true has to be logically consistent. It has to be empirically adequate, and it has to be experientially relevant. That's your grid. That's gonna be the way you test for truth. Logically consistent and can't be contradictory. All you have to do is argue with me. You proved my point, right? You're arguing for one position over and against its contradictory view, but they can't both be true, right? So it's got to be logically consistent. It's got to be empirically adequate. You've got to have some evidence behind it. Show me the receipts. Show me the money. It can't just be theoretical. That theory has to have flesh. It's got to be embodied, right? It's got to be incarnate, as we would say in the Christian sense. So it's got to have some evidence to it, and then it's got to be relevant to people. It can't just make sense, and it can't just have evidence to it. It's got to be relevant. It's got to hit me where in the heart. It can't just be, aloof, pie in the sky kind of stuff, because real people are getting killed. Real people are dying. So it's got to have something really relevant to us and our personal situation and the like. And so we don't have enough time for me to get into how I applied that to the Ukraine situation. I'll just simply say with Ukraine, it helped because I'm Orthodox. I do know, so there's the experiential relevance. I do know the Orthodox world and the tension between Russians and Ukrainians. I've heard it from both sides. Both sides have absolutely legitimate concerns and so forth. But it's probably because of that I knew about the 2014 Minsk Accords shortly after the coup there that was put on, as we now know, thanks to the BBC of all places. So we now know Victoria Nuland helped orchestrate a coup in the Maidan Revolution 2014 that overthrew a duly elected Ukrainian government that was nevertheless pro-Russian. Remember, a third of the Ukrainian population was Russian in the East. And he was just a good candidate, and he had convinced enough Ukrainians to vote for him. So while the majority of Ukrainians, ethnic Ukrainians, voted against him, the 30% of the population is Russian, voted for him, plus another 20% plus one or two of Ukrainians voted for him. Well, they threw him out and they put in this totally pro-Washington, D.C., anti-Russian puppet. And again, we have the evidence from that, from transcripts of conversations, so forth. And all this time, John Mearsheimer of the University of Chicago was giving us a big picture look of why he believed eventually there was going to be a war in Ukraine, and it was going to be initiated, unfortunately, by NATO's failing to listen to very severe warnings coming from multiple administrations in Russia. We're talking the Gorbachev administration before the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, and then the Yeltsin, and then Putin, and then Medvedev, and then Putin again. They all warned NATO, stop this eastward encroachment. We consider it a threat to our national security, and we're drawing a line. We draw red lines, and when we draw a red line, you cross it, we're going to get you. Russia doesn't kid around. They drew a red line. It was Ukraine. You're not allowed. You go to Ukraine. That's it. We're done. And after the Maidan Revolution, NATO was basically supplying all of Ukraine's weapons and intelligence to try to take out the Donbass resistance that had broken away. And we were all seeing, oh my gosh, it's now basically a NATO country. And Putin took the initiative to protect the people that were getting shelled, the Donbass region, Crimea, all that sort of stuff. He took the initiative and said, that's it. If you're going to keep encroaching, then you're going to have to invade Russia if you're going to go any further. So all of that's to say is I use that scheme, logical consistency, empirical adequacy, experiential relevance, as a way of trying to understand all the data that was coming in. So what do we have with Israel and Hamas right now? One of the things I look for is broad agreement on both sides. What is the pro-Palestinian side saying yes to, and what is the pro-Israeli side saying yes to or no to? All right. So that's corroboration. You're getting two very different perspectives coming to the same conclusion. That chances are you're getting reality. Everyone agrees, and you said it well. Everyone agrees October 7th was disgusting. What happened on October 7th would have made ISIS blush. Everyone's saying that. Even Hamas supporters are saying that. Apparently, from what I'm understanding, again, they're trying to explain it, but there were Hamas sympathizers that said all they were supposed to do was kidnap. That originally like 200 people. That's it. That's all they were supposed to do. And when the fighters crossed the border, just a bloodlust took over, and they went nuts.
While we know constitutional carry is sweeping the nation, millions of Americans and even you courageous patriots out there, you turley talkers, you're still stuck in blue or weak red states restricting your constitutional right to bear arms. Well, don't worry, gang. Countrywide Concealed is probably the quickest way to get carrying legally in the majority of the United States. That's right. You won't just be able to carry in your state, but in 84% of the whole of the US of A. It's as quick as watching a video and taking a quiz, and thanks to Countrywide Concealed, your family is that much safer from a myriad of threats no matter where you go. Getting a concealed carry license has literally never been easier, so just click on that link below and join the millions of patriots who've taken back their rights and started carrying legally with Countrywide Concealed today.
They frothed at the mouth and they went nuts. Everyone admits what happened on October 7th is insane. Now, you will have some lunatics who don't, but you don't have to listen to them. I mean, at this point, if everyone agrees that what happened on October 7th, if everyone agrees, if there's corroboration on both the Israeli and the Palestinian side, even the PLO side, Palestinian Liberation Organization, then you've got some truth there. And everyone agrees pretty much right now that Hamas is a problem. Saudi Arabia can't stand Hamas. Iran can't stand Hamas, actually. That's what I'm finding out. They can't stand Hamas. Hamas doesn't play by the rules of the larger Islamic world. They're renegades, and which is how ISIS started. ISIS is a breakaway from Al Qaeda. So right, al-Zarqawi, if I recall, in Iraq. So what you have with Hamas is something similar, and in the end, what happened? Al Qaeda was fighting ISIS. Al Qaeda was being funded by the United States, by the way, to fight ISIS, as was Hamas, by the way, and Hezbollah fighters. So they were all fighting ISIS in the end. So all these nations, in many respects, would love to see Hamas gone at this point. Again, everyone is admitting. But now what do we have? What we have now, I think, again, what everyone is admitting, what we have now is a question of whether or not the Israeli response is totally unrestrained. So their retaliation, which everyone agrees they have a right to, is totally unrestrained and therefore will be completely disproportionate ultimately to what happened. What happened was horrific. Everyone agrees with that. But for many people, that does not negate the fact that men, women, and children in Gaza should not be slaughtered either. Right. That should not happen either. And it is happening. That's the nature of war. War's horrific. It's terrible. I don't want it. I'm as anti-war as you can get. I mean, again, I'm not a pacifist, but I think it's horrible and it's terrible. So the blowback now against Israel is that, and then Israel has been saying some things that have been pretty harsh, understandably. Okay, but they've been calling them, animals, and the only good Hamas is dead Hamas, and all this, or good Palestinians a dead Palestinian, all this sort of stuff. So the rhetoric has been particularly brutal. Given Israel's history, what the hell do you expect, right? So, of course. But the Western world seems to be basically given a green light for Israel to do whatever they think they need to do. They've been saying we're going to treat Hamas like ISIS at this point, which means we're going to eradicate them, which means if we have to kill a lot of innocent Palestinians in the process, it's going to happen. I mean, there's no way around it. We were attacked. It's going to happen. The non-Western world is growing increasingly very concerned about this, as they always do with Israel. Israel always gets pushed back. Israel gets attacked. They respond overwhelmingly and massively in order to create a sense of deterrence. That's what they have to do, or else they'd be attacked by a different nation every day. They respond overwhelmingly in order to create an air of deterrence. And then the rest of the world comes in and says, all right, that's enough. That's enough. You beat the crap out of them. You got it. You got your revenge. Pull back. And Israel generally does, because they only have the United States really behind it. So we're seeing the same pattern play out here. The difference is we're giving Israel continuously this green light. And if the rest of the world wants a red light, if they want it stopped, and the rest of the world, i.e. Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they want to send 10,000 rockets into Israel, all bets are off. Because if we attack Lebanon, which are Shiite, that could cause Iran, if not to directly respond to us, secretly, incandescently respond to us. They can fight proxy wars too, like we're fighting with Russia. So it's very, very dangerous stuff. Turkey is talking very militant right now. Erdogan is 100% behind Palestinians, all the while inviting Sweden to come into NATO. So he's playing the West off the non-West. That's what Erdogan does best. This is why I'm saying, this is why you're seeing Mike Johnson say, yeah, we may end up giving another aid package to Ukraine. Why? Keep Russia busy. Keep Russia going, all right, dang, we can't deal with the Middle East right now. We're still dealing with NATO sending more rockets and stuff, to missiles, munitions to Ukraine. So that's a lot of stuff that's going on that we have to be very, very careful of. Egypt may get sucked up into it because their humanitarian efforts of going into Gaza and helping the Palestinian people are getting thwarted, and they may be getting caught in the crossfire. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out. But that'll give you at least an example of how I make sense of the situation. And I try not to put on black hat, white hat. This is the good person. This is the evil person. Per se, this is not moral equivalence. Again, because what Hamas did was inhuman. So that's a given. But I have to analyze the geopolitical reality, just like I did with Russia and Ukraine. The geopolitical reality is not whoever America sides with is the good guys. I know you guys know that, because we know we've got a bunch of lunatics running DC. But you have to think geopolitically. You have to see what the West wants and what the non-West wants. Recognize the non-West now is as powerful as the West, with Russia, China, and India, Turkey, and Iran, and BRICS, and the SCO, and all these their own parallel economies and organizations. They're just as powerful, and they're going to push back, and they're going to push their own interests as well. And American leaders and European leaders, although Europe is largely sitting out of the Israeli-Hamas conflict, they're just exhausted by the Ukraine. They're losing their. Europe is now going, quote, far right. You're probably seeing all these elections right now. They're going far right. They're getting rid of all these green and globalist governments left and right now. Schroeder in Germany's polling in the abysmal 20s at this point. Same with Macron. They're all falling apart. So anyway, all of that's to say, you got to look at what the West and its interests are. Take a look at the non-West. It's every bit as important. And then you have to balance it out in the new multipolar world.
I hope you enjoyed that clip of my Monday night Insiders Club live stream. Join us live next week by clicking on the link in the description below and joining the coalition of patriots worldwide, building a parallel economy to return to our roots of faith, family, and freedom. Click below right now.